Continuing on with our lesson in the language of anatomy and physiology, if you take a look at the four main terms posted on this page, you will see that each of them begins with the root of the word, which is sarco, the same root of the word, which is sarco. When you hear sarco, you are generally talking about the microscopic anatomy of a skeletal muscle fiber. I know that we talked about the sarcolemma in a previous vid, and that is a fancy term for the cell membrane of a skeletal muscle. The sarcoplasm, wow, that looks a whole heck of a lot like cytoplasm, and sure enough, the sarcoplasm is the cytoplasm of a skeletal muscle. It's going to look very different than the generic muscle, or sorry, the generic cell we talked about when we covered cells, and we're going over the organelles. The sarcoplasmic reticulum, which I know we mentioned, is the specialized endoplasmic reticulum for skeletal muscle. A couple of other terms that are associated with the endoplasmic reticulum will be the terminal cisternae, which are these enlargements of the sarcoplasmic reticulum that will store calcium. Calcium plays an enormously important role in skeletal muscle contraction. Also, the transverse tubules, you may see that abbreviated as T-tubules or TT. They are going to be tubules that are associated with the sarcoplasmic reticulum that are going to extend in from the sarcolemma. And last, but certainly not least, we have the sarcomere, which is defined as this. Sarcomere is the microscopic functional unit of skeletal muscle. Just like the osteon is the microscopic functional unit of compact bone, sarcomere is the microscopic compact unit of skeletal muscle. And if you are asked a definition on an assessment, that is what you will write down. So let's take a look at this. Holy cow, what do we have? Well, don't panic. As we know, the sarcolemma, which is indicated here and here, is a muscle fiber's cell membrane. And remember that muscle fibers are quite long, so this will be quite an extensive membrane. We also see the sarcoplasmic reticulum, which are going to be these guys, this blue structure here. That is the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and its job will be to store calcium, specific to storage of calcium. And you will see the T-tubule right here, and you'll see the terminal cisternae, which are on either side of that, and they're going to form what are known as a triad. And to keep it as simple and straightforward as possible for you, we don't talk much about the triad and the T-tubules and terminal cisternae, and I can't ever remember putting them on an assessment, FYI. Now, you will see that at the bottom it says myofibrils are composed of myofilaments. You will have a number of myofibrils within a sarcoplasm. So let's break that down a little bit. This right here is going to be a sarcomere. So you see where it says Z-disc and Z-disc. I learned it as Z-line to Z-line. Same thing, different name, slightly different name. This is a Z-line, and this is a Z-line, and in between you will have a sarcomere. So the boundaries of a sarcomere are the Z-line. So Z-line to Z-line gives you a sarcomere. Now, take a look at that and see if you can see the blue lines and the red lines within the sarcomere. Those blue lines and red lines are going to be indicative of two protein myofilaments that are known as actin and myosin. And those guys are going to move past one another when we talk about skeletal muscle contraction. We know that sarcoplasmic reticulum is going to be this basically membranous channel that networks around each myofibril. It's going to contain a lot of calcium ions relative to the sarcoplasm. And what you need to know, when stimulated, the sarcoplasmic reticulum will become more permeable to calcium ions, which will allow calcium to move out of the sarcoplasmic reticulum into the sarcoplasm. More on that soon. There it is again. So you see it, and you can also see a sarcomere marked here, right? Z line to Z line, and you can see the sarcolemma. And all of this stuff, these myofibrils, are in the sarcoplasm. We talked a little bit about the T-tubules. Again, for me, this is pretty much a nice to know for this class. But this shows you more about the sarcoplasmic reticulum and the fact that the T-tubules and the terminal cisternae are involved in the release of calcium and activating a muscle contraction because of that. Again, same picture. Just want to give you another image so you have that solidly in your mind before we move elsewhere. You also want to mention skeletal muscle will have a lot of mitochondria because they are going to require ATP.